What if the only reason you haven't achieved the impossible is because someone convinced you that you couldn't? Think about that. How many dreams have you buried, not because they were too far, but because the world whispered, "Be realistic"? Those two words, "be realistic," have crushed more dreams than failure ever could. They are the silent assassins of ambition. When people call something impossible, they're not describing a fact. They're exposing the limits of their own imagination. And without even realizing it, we often absorb those limits and wear them like truth. From a young age, we're told to fit in, to play safe, to avoid disappointment. We're taught that flying too high will only lead to a harder fall. So we shrink, we lower our voices, we take smaller steps. And every time we listen to the voices that say you can't, we take one more step away from the life we were born to live. The word impossible becomes a wall we stop trying to climb, not because it's truly too high, but because we were told we weren't tall enough, smart enough, or worthy enough to even try. But here's the truth. Impossible is a lie. It's a word invented by those who gave up, by those who settled, by those who couldn't see beyond their own fear. Every great breakthrough in history was once seen as ridiculous, reckless, or flat-out insane. Every world changer, every visionary, every underdog who rose from nothing heard the same word, impossible. And yet they refused to listen because they understood something most people never will. The world doesn't decide what's possible for you. You do. You define your limits. You create your future. And the moment you stop asking for permission is the moment everything starts to shift. Right now you're standing at the edge of two choices. One leads back to comfort, to the familiar path of excuses, doubts, and second-guessing. The other demands more. It demands faith. It demands action. It demands that you stop believing the lies you've been told and start believing in the truth you can feel. Deep down, you know you were meant for more. You felt it in your quiet moments, in your restless nights, in the pit of your soul screaming, there has to be more than this. And there is. This isn't just another video. This is a wake-up call, a line in the sand. You're not here by accident. Something inside you is ready to break free. So stay with this message. Stay with this fire. Because by the time you reach the end, you'll no longer look at your life the same way. You'll remember who you were before the world told you to play small. And you'll rise, not as the person they expect, but as the force they never saw coming. The impossible was never a boundary. It was just the starting line. If every limitation you've accepted was just an idea, how powerful could you become by rejecting it? The chains holding you back aren't made of steel. They're made of belief. Belief in your own limitations, belief in the lies others projected onto you, belief in the story that says you're not enough. But beliefs can be broken. They can be rewritten. They can be burned to the ground and rebuilt into something unstoppable. And when you finally tear those beliefs apart, you don't just change your path, you change your identity. You are not the labels they gave you, not the failures they reminded you of, not the ceiling they built around your potential. You are pure potential in motion. And the moment you choose to believe that, everything around you begins to shift. Because belief is not passive, it's active. It shapes what you see, how you act, what you tolerate, and what you pursue. People don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they never gave themselves permission to believe long enough to find out what they're capable of. Your brain listens to everything you think, everything you say. Feed it limits and it will shrink. Feed it belief and it will rise. This is not about fake confidence or empty affirmations. This is about rewiring the system inside you that's been conditioned to expect less. You were not born afraid. You were taught to doubt. You were trained to settle. But what's been trained can be untrained. What's been built can be broken. And what's been lost can be reclaimed. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to break the mold. You are allowed to pursue the thing that everyone else says is out of reach. Because those limits, they were never yours. They were handed to you by people who stopped believing in themselves. The moment you realize that is the moment you take back your freedom. Because belief is contagious, but so is doubt. And every time you choose belief, you not only change your life, you challenge everyone around you to rise too. Think about what's waiting for you on the other side of belief. Think about the doors that open when you no longer hesitate. Think about how unstoppable you become when you no longer ask, "Can I?" and start declaring, "Watch me." The impossible bends for those who refuse to back down. The impossible breaks under the weight of persistence. The impossible surrenders to those who keep showing up after others have quit. So don't just believe in what you want, believe in who you are becoming. Because when your belief gets stronger than your excuses, your life begins to change. You weren't meant to fit in, you were built to break through. And the fire inside you isn't random, it's a signal, a call to rise, to break the limits, to rewrite the rules, to become the proof that impossible is nothing more than permission to rise above. Every time you tell yourself to be realistic, you're quietly choosing fear. Not reason, not logic, fear. Fear wears the mask of practicality. It whispers, play it safe, and calls it wisdom. It tells you to wait for the perfect time and calls it patience. It says you're not ready yet, calls it humility. But fear lies. It wraps itself in the language of caution while suffocating your potential. The worst part, it sounds so convincing that you don't even notice it's robbing you. You've been conditioned to associate safety with truth, but the path to safety is often the quickest route to regret. Real growth never feels safe. Real change never comes wrapped in comfort. It demands discomfort. It demands risk. It demands the willingness to face the unknown with nothing but belief. If fear is the voice that says, "What if you fail?" then courage is the voice that answers, "But what if you fly?" You do not rise by playing it safe. You rise by deciding that the cost of staying stuck is greater than the fear of moving forward. The voice in your head that tells you to wait, to shrink, to hide, it doesn't want to protect you. It wants to control you. Fear cannot lead your life unless you allow it. The second you stop giving it power, the chains begin to loosen. And that is when momentum is born. When you step toward fear instead of away from it, something inside you changes. You stop being the victim of doubt and become the author of possibility. The mind is a battlefield, and the enemy doesn't come with weapons, it comes with questions. What if you're not good enough? What if they laugh? Or what if you fall short? But the antidote to fear isn't the absence of doubt, it's movement. Action silences fear. Discipline dissolves hesitation. Boldness breaks through the noise. You don't need 100 steps right now. You need one move forward, one decision made in faith, one act of courage that shifts everything inside you. Fear thrives in silence. It grows in delay. But when you rise up, even with trembling hands and uncertain steps, fear loses its grip, because fear only controls those who listen. And you right now are done listening. You weren't created to be ruled by fear. You were built to overcome it, to transform it, to turn it into fuel. Every great act of power begins with one moment of defiance, one moment where you say, "Enough. I'm not bowing to fear anymore." So ask yourself this: if fear wasn't an option, what would you do? Who would you become? That version of you, the bold, decisive, relentless version, is already inside. It's just waiting for you to choose courage, not tomorrow, not when it's easier, now. Because the only thing standing between you and everything you were born to achieve is the lie that fear gets the final word. It doesn't. You do the moment you decide to move. Even with doubt, even with fear, you change your story. Because progress doesn't wait for perfection. It waits for commitment. And one bold choice can shift the entire course of your life. That's not an exaggeration. That's a law of motion. The second you act, you separate yourself from the masses, still debating, still hesitating, still stuck in the cycle of overthinking. Action is the great separator. It doesn't require that you know the whole path. It only requires that you take the first step with intention and refuse to turn back. Too many people live their whole lives at the starting line, waiting for a sign, waiting for clarity, waiting until they feel ready. But readiness is a myth. Clarity is earned through movement, not thought. You don't need another reason. You don't need more inspiration. What you need is a decision, one that's rooted in resolve, not emotion. Because if you wait for the fear to disappear, you'll wait your entire life. But if you move through it, it starts to shrink. Power is built through repetition. Discipline is forged in the doing. Confidence is born from keeping the promises you make to yourself, especially when it's hard. You don't need to be extraordinary to begin. You become extraordinary by refusing to quit. You don't rise because you had a perfect plan. You rise because you chose not to back down, not to delay, not to believe the voice that said, maybe later. Later becomes never. Someday becomes regret. And eventually, you're left with a life that looks nothing like the one you imagined, because you never gave yourself permission to start building it. You are not behind, you are not broken, you are not disqualified. Everything you need is already inside of you. What's been missing isn't more knowledge, it's ignition. That spark, that inner defiance that says, I'm done watching my life pass me by. Right now, that moment is here, not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. And all it takes is one decision to begin a chain reaction. One choice to show up. One shift in how you speak to yourself. 1 hour of focused effort that says, this is who I am now. Momentum doesn't wait for motivation. It responds to movement. The more you move, the more power you generate. And that power becomes your foundation. It becomes your identity. When you act in alignment with the future you want, you stop feeling like a fraud and start becoming the version of yourself that doesn't need to fake confidence, because they've earned it. 1 step becomes 2. 2 becomes 10. And before you know it, you're not the same person. You're sharper, stronger, hungrier. Because movement rewires you, you're not chasing change anymore. You're embodying it. So stop stalling, stop doubting. Stop waiting for some perfect moment to prove you're ready. You prove it by moving. This is your line in the sand. The step you take today becomes the standard you never fall below again. Your mind is either your greatest ally or your greatest enemy. It is the place where every victory begins and where every defeat is rehearsed. Every thought you repeat becomes a belief. Every belief you nurture becomes a pattern, and every pattern creates the life you live. You cannot outrun your thinking. If your mind is filled with fear, doubt, and excuses, then no matter how hard you try, you will sabotage every step forward. Not because you're weak, but because your thoughts shape your identity, and your identity controls your actions. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your self-image. If deep down you still believe you're not enough, you will unconsciously prove that belief right again and again. This is why change doesn't start with your actions. It starts with how you speak to yourself when no one's listening. What you whisper in the silence of your mind is far more powerful than what you show to the world. And if those whispers are filled with doubt, if they're rooted in shame, fear, or regret, they will poison every dream you try to grow. But the same mind that can tear you down can also build you into something unstoppable. When you take control of your inner dialogue, when you start planting new thoughts with intention, your brain responds. It doesn't care if the belief is real or not. It just listens, adapts, and reflects what you feed it. You were never born broken. You were born programmable. And you've been programmed by your experiences, your pain, your surroundings, but programming can be rewritten. And the first step is awareness. The second is choice. You must decide daily to reject the lie that says your past defines your future. You must train your mind to respond with strength, not surrender, because the world won't give you peace. It will give you pressure. And if your inner world is weak, you'll break under it. But if your inner world is strong, nothing outside of you can shake you. Discipline, focus, and courage begin in the mind. They begin with repetition, not talent. They begin with telling yourself every single day, I am not my past. I am not my failures. I am what I choose to become. If you want to change your life, change what you repeat. Build new standards. Build new language. Replace I can't with I will. Replace I'm not ready with I'll figure it out. Replace maybe with absolutely. Your mind will believe what you tell it the most. Feed it power, feed it purpose, feed it resilience. Because once your mind believes, your body follows. Your habits follow. Your results follow. You don't need permission to think differently. You need commitment. And when your mind becomes your weapon, the world has nothing that can stop you. The impossible becomes inevitable. And it all begins with how you think when no one else is watching. There are 3 forces silently working against your greatness: procrastination, self-doubt, and distraction. And they don't show up as enemies. They disguise themselves as comfort, as logic, as harmless delay. But every time you choose comfort over commitment, you give away power. Every time you listen to self-doubt instead of discipline, you let fear speak louder than purpose. Every time you let distractions win, you trade your future for temporary relief. And the more you repeat it, the more you normalize it. until failure doesn't feel like failure anymore. It just becomes familiar. Procrastination convinces you that later is an option. But time doesn't care about your excuses. It keeps moving with or without you. The truth is, procrastination isn't laziness. It's avoidance. Avoidance of pressure. Avoidance of discomfort. Avoidance of facing the gap between who you are and who you want to become. But the gap only closes when you act. No amount of thinking, planning, or waiting will substitute for movement. You either build your future or you watch it slip away one unclaimed hour at a time. Then comes self-doubt. It doesn't scream, it whispers. Quiet enough that you barely notice it, but persistent enough to poison your confidence. It sounds like a question. What if I'm not ready? What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? But the real question is, what if none of that is true? What if the only thing keeping you small is the belief that you don't deserve to be big? Self-doubt is not humility. It's sabotage. It pretends to protect you, but it cages you. And if you don't confront it, it becomes your identity. And when your focus slips, distraction moves in. Not just the obvious kind, phones, noise, notifications, but the deeper distractions, the emotional ones, doubt, insecurity, the endless comparison to others, the habit of chasing what's urgent instead of what's important. Distraction steals energy from your mission. It splits your attention and waters down your potential. And over time, you forget what focused intensity even feels like. But greatness demands attention. It demands obsession. It demands that you reclaim your time, your space, your energy from everything that doesn't serve your purpose. You cannot conquer what you don't confront. And these enemies won't leave on their own. You have to choose discipline over delay, certainty over doubt, focus over noise. And it won't be easy. But easy has never changed anyone. What changes you is the decision to fight back, to refuse to be dragged down by the very habits that once defined you. The moment you say, I'm done giving my power to these forces, everything shifts. You stop being a prisoner of your patterns and become a master of your focus. That's when you move with clarity. That's when you act with intensity. That's when you begin to break through limits you once thought were permanent. You don't need more time. You need fewer distractions. You don't need more motivation. You need less procrastination. And you don't need to be perfect. You just need to stop letting the enemy live rent-free in your mind. Repetition creates transformation, not inspiration, not intensity. Repetition. The consistent act of doing what must be done, even when the excitement fades, even when the results aren't visible, even when no one's watching. That's what separates the driven from the drifting. Most people wait for motivation before they move. But those who achieve what others call impossible understand that motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. What you need is discipline. What you need is consistency. What you need is the ability to act regardless of how you feel. The truth is, excellence is boring. Success isn't built on explosive moments. It's built on daily disciplines. Quiet, unseen, repeated over and over. Every day you show up, you reinforce a new identity. Every workout, every early morning, every hour spent focused instead of distracted, it's not just progress. It's proof. Proof that you're becoming the person who follows through. The person who does what others won't. The person who no longer needs hype to take action. The person who's grounded in purpose, not dependent on mood. You don't become strong by doing what's easy. You become strong by doing what's necessary. And what's necessary often feels repetitive. But that repetition is how your body adapts, how your mind evolves, how your standards rise. There's no shortcut, there's no hack, there's only the path of repeated excellence. You either commit to the work or you become a spectator to those who do. Every skipped habit is a silent vote for who you used to be. Every completed habit is a declaration of who you're becoming. Choose wisely. Momentum is not built in a day, it's built daily. That's the difference between those who wish and those who win. Those who wish talk about what they'll do when they feel ready. Those who win show up whether they feel like it or not. And the more you show up, the easier it becomes. Not because the task gets easier, but because you get stronger. You build resilience. You train your nervous system to follow through. You build emotional endurance. And that's when something incredible happens. You stop needing to convince yourself to take action. It becomes who you are. You're no longer pushing yourself. You're pulled forward by the standard you've built. You stop chasing motivation because you've built momentum, and that momentum becomes unstoppable. It becomes your edge, the force that carries you through resistance, through doubt, through plateaus. While others question whether they have what it takes, you've already moved. You've already acted. You've already earned ground they haven't even stepped on. This is the secret nobody wants to hear. It's not about talent. It's not about inspiration. It's about relentless consistency. Daily, disciplined, deliberate action. If you do it once, it's a moment. If you do it daily, it's a lifestyle. And when your habits align with your vision, the impossible starts to look predictable. The world begins to bend, not for who you were, but for who you've chosen to become, day after disciplined day. When the results don't show, when the world is silent, when no one applauds your effort, that's where most people quit. They give up not because they lack ability, but because they crave validation. They want the outcome before they've earned the identity. But growth doesn't reward the impatient. The greatest progress happens in the dark, when the work feels thankless, when the path feels invisible, and when all you have is a vision no one else can see. That's where your future is being shaped, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, not in the noise, but in the silence. You have to stop needing evidence before you believe. Vision isn't about what's visible. It's about what you refuse to give up on, even when there's nothing yet to show. The world teaches you to believe in what you see. But the truth is, you only see what you believe. And if you don't believe in the outcome first, you'll never stay long enough to see it unfold. Vision keeps you moving when motivation fades. It becomes the fire that won't let you sleep, the hunger that doesn't settle, the pulse that won't stop beating until what you imagine becomes real. The most powerful dreams feel delusional in the beginning. That's the point. They're supposed to challenge logic. They're supposed to stretch your identity. If everyone could see what you see, it wouldn't be your vision, it would be theirs. You were given this dream for a reason, and the more people don't understand it, the more that reason matters. Stop explaining, stop defending, stop waiting for permission to pursue what only you can feel. This journey will test you. You'll question yourself. You'll wonder if it's worth it. You'll hear the voice that says it's too late, too hard, too far. But that voice is not truth. It's resistance. It's fear. It's the echo of every person who quit before they saw the breakthrough. You are not one of them. You are here because you're different. You are here because you refuse to settle. You are here because something inside you still burns, even when life tries to smother it. Hold on to that flame. Protect it. Fuel it. Let it guide your decisions. Let it push you past comfort. Let it remind you that just because you don't see the results today doesn't mean they aren't coming. The seed doesn't sprout the moment you plant it, but underground it's alive. It's working. And so are you. Every effort you make, every time you resist the urge to quit, every decision to stay focused when it would be easier to fold, that's the real work. That's the unseen process that produces visible results. What you believe about yourself in the invisible season determines who you become when the spotlight finally arrives. Keep showing up. Keep doing the work, because the vision you carry is more real than the doubts you hear. And if you hold the line long enough, the world will catch up to what you've already decided is possible. If you want to rise, you must be willing to break the mold that's kept you small. Every limitation you've accepted, every rule you've followed to stay safe, every identity you've clung to out of fear, none of it belongs to the real you. You weren't born to blend in. You weren't built to live quietly, agreeing with opinions that don't reflect your potential. The version of you that fits in is the version that was shaped by survival, not by truth. And as long as you keep conforming to who the world told you to be, you'll never step into who you were meant to become. There comes a moment when you must stop asking, what will they think? And start asking, what do I believe? Because the moment you stop needing permission, you start becoming powerful. Most people are not trapped by their lack of ability. They're trapped by their need for approval. They trade their uniqueness for acceptance. They shrink their fire to make others comfortable. And in doing so, they bury the very gift they were born to give the world. But greatness doesn't live inside the familiar. It lives in the bold, in the uncomfortable, in the moments where you decide that fitting in is no longer an option. You are not obligated to stay who you used to be. You are not bound to the expectations others placed on you. The world may have labeled you, but those labels were never yours to carry. You don't have to live according to their doubts. You don't have to measure your worth by their understanding. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to become something that surprises even you. This shift begins the moment you break the pattern of silence when you want to speak, the pattern of hesitation when you want to act, the pattern of settling when your soul craves more. You've lived long enough inside the script someone else wrote for you. Rip it up, rewrite it, redefine what's possible by choosing to live aligned with your truth, not their comfort. You'll feel resistance. You'll feel tension. That's not a sign you're wrong. It's confirmation you're growing. Because breaking free isn't clean. It's uncomfortable. But that discomfort is proof that you're shedding the old skin. It's a sign that you're stepping into your own power, not the version of power others told you was acceptable. And once you get a taste of that freedom, you'll never go back. You'll never again silence yourself to make others feel secure. You'll never again pretend to be less just to be liked. Your life is your message. Make sure it says something real. Make sure it reflects courage, not compromise. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs your voice, your truth, your fire, unapologetically expressed. The impossible isn't something you reach by staying quiet and agreeable. It's something you earn by breaking away and becoming fully, boldly, relentlessly you. You were not made to live on autopilot. You were not built for a life of repetition without growth, motion without direction, or noise without meaning. Deep inside, there is a part of you that knows this truth. The part that aches when you're disconnected from purpose. The part that feels restless, unsatisfied, no matter how much you accomplish when you're out of alignment with who you truly are. That voice is your signal. Not a weakness, not confusion, but a call. A call to wake up, a call to rise, a call to take back control of your focus, your time, your energy, and your future. You don't rise by accident, you rise by design. And design demands intention. It demands that you choose your direction every single day. You can't drift your way into greatness. You can't casually become powerful. Nothing changes until you decide to get conscious. Conscious of how you think, how you speak, how you move through the world. You have to get intentional about your habits, your inputs, your mindset, and the environments you allow yourself to remain in. If you don't choose your influences, they will choose you. And not all of them have your best future in mind. The reason most people stay stuck is not because they lack desire, it's because they lack clarity. Clarity isn't some magical realization. It's built through reflection, repetition, and courageous decision-making. It's what happens when you stop living in reaction mode and start creating your life with precision. When you stop asking, what's easy, and start asking, what's essential. You don't need more noise. You need more truth. You need more alignment between what you say you want and what you actually do with your time. Because every moment you delay action, you train your brain that it's okay to abandon your potential. You wire hesitation into your nervous system. And then you wonder why confidence doesn't grow. Confidence doesn't come from thinking. It comes from acting with alignment. It comes from showing yourself over and over again that you will not betray your mission no matter how hard it gets. That's how you build certainty, not by waiting to feel ready, but by proving to yourself that you are willing. Your future isn't waiting for the perfect plan. It's waiting for your full presence. It's waiting for you to stop making excuses for staying average. It's waiting for you to take full ownership of your time, your choices, and your energy. No more blaming, no more delays, no more living like your power is somewhere outside of you. It's not. It's right here. And the moment you decide to fully step into it, everything begins to shift. You stop watching others rise and begin rising yourself. You stop settling for distraction and start living with purpose. You stop reacting to life and start commanding it. That's how the impossible becomes real, by those who no longer wait for permission and instead choose to show up with unstoppable clarity. You can't wait to feel unstoppable before you act like it. You must behave like the person you want to become long before the world recognizes it. Power doesn't arrive. It's claimed. And every time you choose discipline over comfort, every time you act in alignment with your vision instead of your emotions, you are casting a vote for that future version of yourself. That version already exists. Not in some faraway dream, but in the decisions you make today. the choices you make when no one is watching, the habits you repeat when it would be easier to let them slip. Transformation is not a single leap, it's 1,000 silent victories. Waking up when you said you would, finishing what you promised yourself, staying focused when distractions are screaming. These moments may seem small, but they are sacred because they shape your identity. And identity is everything. You don't get what you want. You get what you are. If you want different results, you must build a different standard for yourself, one that doesn't waver based on how you feel, but stands firm because of who you've decided to be. Your environment will test you. The people around you won't always understand your drive. They might mock your effort, question your choices, or feel threatened by your evolution. That's not a sign you're off track. It's confirmation that you're leaving the comfort zone that keeps most people trapped. Growth often looks like isolation at first, not because you're alone, but because you're separating from who you used to be. And the more you embrace that discomfort, the faster you rise. You have to be willing to be misunderstood. You have to be willing to be different. And most of all, you have to be willing to outgrow the version of yourself that fit into a life that no longer inspires you. That version was necessary for survival. But survival is not the goal anymore. You're here to thrive, to elevate, to expand beyond every limit you once accepted as truth. When you live from that place of inner alignment, your energy changes. You move differently. You speak with conviction. You stop looking for permission because you've already given it to yourself. That's what unshakable self-belief looks like. Not arrogance, not ego, but the deep certainty that no matter what the world throws at you, you are built to rise through it. And that belief, it's earned. Earned through repetition, through showing up when quitting would be easier, through embodying excellence long before the results arrive. Stop waiting for the world to validate you. Stop waiting for the perfect moment to begin. This is the moment. This is the test. This is the proving ground. You already have the tools. You already have the fire. What's left is the decision to go all in. No more halfway, no more playing small. Stand up, lock in, and move like the impossible is already yours. Because the moment you do, it starts to become true. There is a moment when your old life no longer fits, when your old patterns feel too small for the power rising within you. That moment isn't chaos, it's confirmation. It's the tension between who you've been and who you are meant to become. And most people run from it. They numb it. They retreat back to comfort because change feels like loss. But it's not loss, it's rebirth. It's the uncomfortable stretch that comes with expansion. You can't take flight while clinging to the ground. If you want elevation, you must be willing to let go of everything that's been weighing you down. Let go of the excuses that kept you average. Let go of the identities you inherited instead of chose. Let go of the habits that once served you but no longer align with the future you crave. Growth requires release. The mind wants to hold on because it fears uncertainty, but the heart knows. The heart always knows when it's time to evolve. And the moment you stop negotiating with your doubts, the moment you stop entertaining your limitations, is the moment momentum finds you. Not because the resistance disappears, but because you finally stop giving it authority over your life. You don't break through by hoping. You break through by shedding, by removing everything inside you that says, I can't, I shouldn't, I'm not ready. You were not born with those beliefs. They were taught, reinforced, and absorbed. But just as they were learned, they can be unlearned. And in their place, you plant new thoughts, new standards, new patterns that reflect who you truly are beneath the conditioning. Not the version built from fear, but the version fueled by fire. This isn't about being fearless. It's about feeling fear and still choosing to act. It's about standing at the edge of the unknown and deciding that what's waiting for you on the other side is worth more than what you're leaving behind. The leap will never feel comfortable. That's why it's called a leap. It requires faith. It requires courage. And above all, it requires a decision. A decision to stop waiting, to stop stalling, to stop rehearsing the same life you've outgrown. That decision changes everything. Because once you commit, truly commit, your energy shifts. You stop leaking power. You stop seeking validation. You start moving with clarity, like someone who knows exactly where they're going, even if the path isn't fully clear. And the world responds to that energy. Doors open, resources appear. People align, not because it's magic, but because you're finally aligned with yourself. You don't need more time. You need less hesitation. You don't need a new opportunity. You need the boldness to act on the one already in front of you. There's something in you right now waiting to be unleashed. Something stronger, louder, and more alive than you've ever allowed it to be. Let it speak. Let it lead. Let it rise. Because once you do, you'll never return to the life you were merely surviving. You'll step fully into the one you were born to build. Everything changes the moment you stop chasing outcomes and start becoming the kind of person who naturally creates them. The goal isn't just to achieve one victory, it's to become someone for whom victory is normal. Someone who no longer needs to force results because their habits, mindset, and standards are already aligned with success. That kind of transformation doesn't happen by chance. It happens by design. It happens when you stop treating growth like a temporary sprint and start living it like a permanent standard. Most people set goals that match their current identity. But if you only aim for what already feels possible, you'll stay stuck in the version of yourself you already know. Real progress begins when you set goals that force you to stretch. Goals that don't just ask more from your time, but more from your character. Because the real battle isn't about what you want. It's about what you're willing to become in order to deserve it. That version of you doesn't wait for life to shift. That version of you becomes the shift. Your environment might not reflect it yet. Your results might not confirm it yet. But who you are becoming is not defined by your current reality. It's defined by the standards you uphold when no one is watching. The discipline you keep when there's no applause. The energy you bring even when there's no guarantee. When you embody the mindset of someone who wins regardless of the odds start bending in your favor. It's not about being perfect. It's about being committed. Committed to the process, not just the prize. Committed to growth, not just recognition. Committed to the next step, even when the destination feels distant. That's how you build momentum that doesn't fade. That's how you stop chasing highs and start building consistency. When your standards are non-negotiable, your results become inevitable. But you must let go of the identity that's addicted to struggle. You must release the belief that things have to be hard for them to be real. Ease doesn't mean weakness. Flow doesn't mean laziness. You're allowed to succeed. You're allowed to win. You're allowed to build a life that feels aligned, powerful, and deeply fulfilling. But you can't access that life if you keep sabotaging it with outdated beliefs about who you are and what you're worth. Step into the identity that matches your future, not your past. Show up as that person before the results arrive. Speak like them, think like them, move like them. Not to pretend, but to become, because who you repeatedly choose to be will always outweigh who you used to be. And when your identity aligns with your vision, momentum becomes natural, progress becomes expected, and the impossible becomes your new normal. You don't wait to rise, you rise, then everything else follows. It's not about hoping you'll get there someday. It's about deciding that today is the day you stop waiting and start becoming. Most people never reach their potential, not because they lack the ability, but because they protect their comfort more than their calling. They want success, but only if it doesn't cost too much. They want growth, but only if it doesn't challenge their ego. They want transformation, but only if they can keep their excuses. But you can't keep your limits and reach your next level at the same time. At some point you have to choose. You have to decide that your comfort zone is no longer your home. That your old patterns are no longer welcome. That the person you were yesterday is no longer qualified to lead your tomorrow. You were never meant to live in survival mode. You were never created to simply get by, check boxes, and hope something changes. There's a fire inside of you that doesn't settle, a quiet resistance to mediocrity that keeps pulling you forward. Listen to it. That's your higher self reminding you that you're meant for more. Not more in terms of status or applause, but more in terms of alignment, purpose, impact. That voice doesn't speak through noise. It speaks through inner tension. That feeling that you've outgrown your current life isn't frustration. It's direction. It's telling you to rise. It's telling you to move. You're not behind. You're not too late. But you are responsible. Responsible for your choices. Responsible for your energy. Responsible for the standard you set every time you act like it's okay to stay small. The moment you stop lowering your standards to fit your current situation and start raising your standards to match your future vision, everything begins to shift. Life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you're willing to demand from yourself. Discipline is the bridge between potential and power. It's what turns scattered effort into focused momentum. It's what transforms inspiration into transformation. You won't always feel like it. That's why it matters. Discipline isn't about being in the mood. It's about being in command. Command of your actions, command of your attention, command of your attitude, even when your circumstances try to define it. You don't rise by accident. You rise because you refuse to accept average, even when average is easy. The people who change their lives are not the ones who never fall. They're the ones who refuse to stay down, the ones who get up one more time, the ones who use pain as fuel, not as a prison, the ones who stop negotiating with doubt and start executing with belief. You don't need a perfect plan. You need an unbreakable decision, a decision that says, I will not let fear write the story of my life. You don't have to know exactly how it all unfolds. You just need to know this: you're done waiting. You're done settling. You're done being available to a version of life that doesn't reflect your deepest truth. From this moment forward, you are the one who rises. The greatest shift you will ever make is from believing you need to feel ready to knowing you already are. Readiness is not something you wait for. It's something you claim. Every breakthrough begins when you stop postponing your power, when you stop searching for external signs and start acting from internal certainty. That certainty doesn't come from evidence. It comes from intention. You decide what you are. You declare it through action. Not once, not when it's easy, but every single time doubt tries to talk you out of it. Because doubt will always show up. But your commitment must show up louder. There's no growth without friction, no elevation without pressure, no transformation without resistance. That tension you feel isn't failure. It's the weight that forges your next level. Stop treating difficulty like a warning sign. It's a signal that you're expanding, that you're touching edges you've never reached before. And that discomfort, it's proof you're no longer settling for what's familiar. Growth doesn't feel like winning. It feels like stretching, like discomfort, like uncertainty. And if you can sit in that fire long enough, something new emerges, something stronger, something real. Your mind will try to convince you to slow down, to stay safe, to protect your current identity, but safety is not your purpose. Staying the same is not your mission. Your mind's job is survival. Your soul's job is expansion. You have to decide which voice wins. You weren't built to repeat the past. You were built to create what's never existed through the power of decision and discipline. You get to lead your mind. You get to tell it what matters. You get to command it to align with the highest vision of who you are, not the old patterns of who you were. There is nothing more powerful than a person who refuses to betray their potential. Nothing more dangerous to mediocrity than someone who shows up regardless of fear. This is not about confidence. It's about commitment. Confidence will come, but commitment must lead. Every action you take in the direction of your purpose is a declaration that your potential matters more than your fear. And when that becomes your baseline, excuses evaporate. Distractions lose their grip, and your life begins to reflect your fire, not your fear. You don't rise by accident. You rise because you've made the decision to never again abandon yourself in the name of comfort. Because you've decided that regret is a greater pain than effort. Because you've chosen to live with urgency, not because time is running out, but because your life is waiting to be lived at full capacity. You're not here to wish. You're here to build. You're not here to hope. You're here to execute. You're not here to survive the impossible. You're here to make it undeniable. Let the world watch. Let the doubts come. Let resistance scream. You're already in motion, and there's no turning back. You are not here to repeat cycles. You are here to break them. Every time you show up with intention, you interrupt a pattern that was designed to keep you small. Every time you choose progress over excuses, you challenge the identity that says you're not enough. And every time you act in alignment with your vision, even when it's hard, even when it's lonely, you plant the roots of a future that once felt out of reach. This is not about motivation. It's about mastery. mastery over your mind, mastery over your habits, mastery over the silent choices that define who you really are. There is no transformation without responsibility, not partial, not occasional, full responsibility. That means no blaming your past, no pointing at the world, and no waiting for the right moment. You don't control everything that happens, but you control what you do with it. You control the meaning you give it. You control whether it builds you or breaks you. And the moment you stop outsourcing your power, the moment you stop negotiating your future with your fears, everything changes. Not instantly, but undeniably, because energy compounds. Decisions compound, and the more aligned actions you take, the faster momentum builds until it becomes unstoppable. You must protect your focus like your future depends on it, because it does. Every distraction is a thief. Every excuse is a detour. Every time you say later, you delay the life that is waiting for your full presence now. Discipline isn't punishment, it's protection. It's what separates those who dream from those who execute. It's what keeps your vision alive when the noise tries to drown it. You're not tired, you're distracted, you're not broken, you're unaligned. And the moment you cut out what doesn't match your next level, clarity returns. Strength returns, hunger returns. You do not need more time, you need more truth. The truth about what you've been tolerating, the truth about what you've been avoiding, the truth about what it's really costing you to stay where you are. Comfort is not neutral, it's expensive. And the longer you stay in it, the more your potential slips through your fingers unnoticed. But the beautiful part is you can change direction in an instant. One decision, one commitment, one moment of clarity that says, enough. You're not meant to crawl through life hoping for change. You're meant to rise with conviction and demand it. Not from the world, from yourself. The breakthrough you're waiting for is already inside of you. It's not locked behind luck, talent, or opportunity. It's unlocked through courage, through repetition, through the quiet daily refusal to be anything less than what you were created to become. You are not here to play small. You are here to lead, to build, to become undeniable. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is your life. You get one. Or make it count. Make it bold. Make it so powerful that even the impossible has no choice but to move aside.